Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me live and in color in the studio, Charlie O'Connor, Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. Good to see you, Chuck.
It is good to be back here. Obviously, was on that road trip, so it's been a while since I've been back in Philadelphia. Been on the show quite a lot, but good to be home.
How was the trip? Was it a nice time? Did your driver win the big race?
He did not. He came real close. He had the best car, but had some bad luck on a restart, and then just couldn't quite get. He finished second. But no, it was Sunday was nice. It was a nice day to relax. I wasn't leaving until later because my Spirit airline flight backed it up 3 times, so I wasn't flying out of there until like 9:30.
Charlie, this is the thing: is when you're not on, Kelly and I tell everyone you fly first class. Yeah, you fly charter. You can't tell people you're flying Spirit. Well, it ruins the image of the media elite.
Yeah, but I'm not the elite. Usually I take nicer airlines, but that price was so much lower than all the other ones. I kind of didn't have a choice. It was like, okay, well, if one is $50 and one is $500.
Excellent job vamping while I was late to get the we're live tweet out. So I was able to get Charlie to BS with me while I actually composed it. So the show can actually begin now.
Hey,
we're live here as we always are. Anyway, got to get right into it, now that we're 2 minutes in. Matvei Michkov returns to the lineup last night, Charlie. The heroes welcome in front of the home crowd after sitting out the final 2 games of the 3-game road trip. And he delights the crowd. He sure did. He sets up, gets the primary assist on TK's power play goal. And then, it was so nice to see, scores himself. He's +2 in the game. He's on the ice for all 3 of their actual goals.
Gets the shootout
Scores
goal.
In the shootout as well. It's really nice to see him back, and this is something we got into in postgame. We got a lot of Michkov stuff, but this is something we talked about in postgame last night that I wanted to expand on because we only have so much time.
This is true.
In the postgame hits. I'm not saying like long term. Oh yes, Ryan Poehling and Tony Dick. This is who he needs to play with for the next 10 years. Like that is by no means what I am saying.
Right.
But when you look at the makeup of this team, there's not really a perfect scenario for Michkov to play alongside. We've seen him with Owen Tippett as his opposite winger, and Tippett needs to shoot a whole lot. Yeah. He is a volume shooter.
Yeah.
Mish needs a lot of touches because that's him, man. He's doing wizard stuff all the time, setting things up, getting his own shots, whatever it is. There's only one puck. Mm-hmm. I don't see that as viable. We talked a lot in the offseason about, I think a Frost-Foerster pairing with Mish, that might work. Well, Foerster's on the 4th line and Frost ain't playing.
Yeah, they're both struggling mightily.
Both are it might not be playing in 2 weeks,
Not wrong.
Like, I liked him with Coots, but it looks like we have something going with the Coots, TK, and Tippett line.
I want to talk about that a little bit later, not now, because let's stay on the Michkov thing, but I think there is one reason why that's working, and I don't think it's something that a lot of people want to talk about. But I basically think Sean Couturier is just playing really well.
Oh, I very much agree.
And I think there are a lot of haters who will refuse to acknowledge that Sean Couturier is playing really well, but he's driving that line.
I very much agree. But with Mish, that leaves like, okay, he kind of is on this third-ish line last night with whatever's left. Mm-hmm. Morgan Frost is out of the lineup, so Poehling gets bumped up. Yeah. Anthony Richard is still here because we have guys on IR again, so might as well keep him. I like the way their games fit with what Michkov does.
Okay.
First of all, speed.
Yeah.
These guys are going to get the puck through the neutral zone. They're going to create some rush chances. We haven't seen Michkov on the rush enough.
True.
Last night, that line scores 2 goals on the rush.
Mm-hmm.
I got to believe that that's something we are going to see more of if we keep them together. Ryan Poehling, we know he can win some faceoffs. He can do some things for you defensively. He scoops up that loose puck to get it to Michkov last night. We see Richard set up Eric Johnson on the other rush goal. Michkov's out there. Like that. They both have a little bit more skill. A little bit more skill than they're given credit for.
Yeah.
Richard, he can score in the AHL, but what is he really? And Ryan Poehling, we always joke, he had that one game.
He had that one really nice setup of the Garnet Hathaway goal a few games ago where he showed oh, yeah, right. There's a reason why he was a first-round pick who scored a hat trick in his very first game. Right.
A little bit more. And sometimes superstars just play with other superstars and everyone makes each other better and we have a super line. Other times, you get these combinations of, he doesn't have the 2 other highest scoring dudes on his line.
Yeah.
But they all kind of just fit. And for right now, when there isn't really an answer, I don't think at least, this is as well as they can do. And as well as keep the other lines kind of working towards figuring out how to make this team good at 5-on-5, which they've been for the last week or so.
I think what it really boils down to me is I think I think the answer here, if you're asking what's the answer the long term, by long term I mean this season, what is the long term answer for where Michkov should play? It's probably on Morgan Frost's wing. That is probably where he should end up. The problem is that Morgan Frost is playing really poorly. So until Frost gets it going, or I guess now it's until he even gets back in the lineup, but until he does his yearly, it's January, I'm a good player again thing, they can't do that because you can't put Michkov next to a guy that's just scuttling, which is what Frost has been doing pretty much all year. So until then, what do you do with him? He's had moments with Couturier. My concern with putting him with Couturier really has very little to do with stylistic because I think those two, they're fine together. Couturier is a very smart player.
They can read each other.
They can read each other. Couturier is probably the one guy on the team in the offensive zone who thinks the game, doesn't think the game the exact same way that Michkov does, but Sean Couturier is an extremely high hockey IQ player. Matvei Michkov is an extremely high offensive zone hockey IQ player. I think that works. The reason why I don't think it works right now for the Flyers is because due to the circumstances of what the cards they're dealt with, Sean Couturier is the 1C who's getting the toughest matchups. And I don't know if Michkov right now is ready to deal with that every single shift at 5-on-5. So I don't think you can put him with Couturier because of that reason, because he's still figuring out the finer points of 5-on-5 play. You can't put him with Frost because Frost is a mess. Right now, he's not even playing, but I assume he'll get back in at some point. Even when he does, unless he's playing better, you can't put him with them because they're not going to do anything at 5-on-5 until Frost figures it out. So until then, I don't know. Is this maybe the best case scenario for where they're at the moment? Because I'm thinking back to Pittsburgh when they won their cups and they put Phil Kessel in the third line with Nick Bonino and Carl Hagelin. Phil Kessel, look, I expect that Matvei Michkov will not be the 5-on-5 liability long-term in terms of defensive play that Phil Kessel was for a lot of his career. But Phil Kessel was a guy where if you gave him somewhat sheltered minutes, he'd score a lot of points because it's you put Phil Kessel against third lines, he's going to kill it. And then you gave him 2 pretty good line mates of Bonino and Hagelin, not superstars by any means, but pretty good guys. That line killed it. It was a dominant line in the playoffs, dominant line, period. Maybe something like this. And I don't think Anthony Richard is a long-term solution, but maybe Poehling, Michkov, and somebody else. Maybe that works for now until Frost gets going.
And that was my next thing. Ultimately, when this team is trying to be good in a few years, Michkov's playing 19, 20 minutes. He's your first line right wing. Yeah. He's the best player on the team. Does he really need to play 19 or 20 minutes a night right now? Like, I don't know. Does he really need those top-line matchups? I don't think so. I think as we're building him, we should build up to it. And he can do it in special. If you're down 2 goals in the third, like, yeah, man, he's getting double shifted. So he is going to be out there with Coots too. But I don't see a need to give him every possible tough, matchup along the way while he's dealing with figuring out what
he's figuring things out,
figuring out the North American game, figuring out what John Tortorella wants, figuring out how to consistently score on these goalies. I don't know if we need to give him all of that right now. And that brings me back to Richard because, no, he's not going to be here long term.
You just like saying Tony.
I really do. But no, this is something it's not even him specifically, just the style of player. This is something you and I have been talking about almost 10 years. You're allowed to be a one-dimensional or even zero-dimensional player if your perceived dimension is defense.
True.
This team, all of their actually good players are good defense. Like Sean Couturier. Yeah, he's had a couple of big games, but mostly he don't score at all. And he's playing 20 minutes a night. Yeah. Why not have role players who do the things that can be made up? A team of superstars that score all the time. Let's just have a bunch of good checkers, because that's what we need for depth. The Flyers don't have primary scoring, so maybe they need to boost it with a little secondary scoring. I could see him as a guy in a third line role or somebody similar to him. Is he a complete player? No. But can he play 12 minutes a night like Tony Dick did last night and give us a point? Yeah. I just kind of see that as something kind of necessary for this team right now.
Yeah, look, right now, I don't disagree with you because I don't really want him playing with Couturier while he's figuring out the finer points of 5-on-5 play because I want him to get slightly easier matchups. There's the second line problem, which is basically the Morgan Frost problem functionally. Ryan Poehling, I don't want him to be his center long term. But the thing is that it doesn't, I know in the moment it feels like what is happening right now is the most important thing.
Of course.
But it's not like this is going to last forever. As I said, I expect that Morgan Frost will eventually get going because he always eventually gets going. It's just that now you're just thinking, is this just who he is? Where the first 2.5 months of every year, he kind of stinks. And if that's the case, should he be part of the long-term solution? That's a fair debate to have. But I do think at some point Morgan Frost will get going because he's done this for 2 straight seasons. He has a track record of eventually clicking. Once he does, then you can move Michkov back up comfortably and have him not be playing first-line minutes against top lines all the time. Other thing is that the longest this is going to last, I think, is this season because I got news for you. I think they are projecting Jet Luchenko to make the team next year, and Jet Luchenko is basically Ryan Poehling on steroids right now. And you're assuming he's going to get better.
And we saw them have decent chemistry when they played a little bit together.
So, if Michkov has to kind of, play down the lineup with guys who we know aren't going to be the type of talents that he's going to be playing with 2-3 years down the road, it's probably not the end of the world because we know that there's an end point. We know that either Frost is going to figure it out or Jet Luchenko is going to make the team next year or they're going to end up near the bottom of the draft thing and they're going to win the lottery and get a real good center. I do think there's a path for this not to be a long-term thing, so I don't think it has to be annoying that he's playing with Ryan Poehling. In the here and now, I look at that lineup and I'm like, God, you have Matvei Michkov with Ryan Poehling. And Poehling, I don't dislike him.
No.
He's a bottom 6 center. And you're like, God, wouldn't it be great if Michkov was with a better center? Problem is,
they don't
that
have one.
They have one who is taking all the tough minutes, and then they have another who, when he's playing well, is better than Poehling. But right now, he's not better than Poehling.
And that's you mentioned Jet Luchenko and you mentioned the draft lottery. Yes, Flyers are looking better right now. They're 23rd in the league. 6-8-2, getting closer to 500. They have 3 regulation wins.
Yeah, it's not great.
That's a big tiebreaker, and it's a pretty good indicator of the type of hockey you might be playing.
There's
a good chance they have a top 10 pick.
I've really liked what they've done the last 3 games. Yeah. All 3 of those games went to shootouts.
Yes. Including, I am real happy with a lot of what I saw last night. What I did see, though, last night is You needed a shootout after getting a 3-goal lead against the San Jose Sharks, who rarely win. Played the night before, came back on you. That's rough.
Yeah, it's fair.
They're not exactly all that great. So there will be an answer to some of these problems, maybe as soon as next year. But
I think it will be as soon as next year because
at least Luchenko.
Luchenko will probably make the team unless he totally flops in camp. I think they know he's close, and I think he's going to enter camp in kind of the same spot that Foerster entered camp last year, where he's going to have to really screw it up not to make the team. And if that's the case, then Poehling will still probably be here, but he just gets bumped down a little bit because whether Morgan Frost is still here or not, I guess we'll see how that plays out over the next. Bill, here's the thing: I know you've convinced yourself that he's gone. You did the same thing this time last year. It was he's not. There's no way he's going to be part of the future.
The difference
he's still
is
here.
The difference is you are forced to make a decision on him this summer. Yes, he's only a restricted free agent, but you have to have the conversation with yourself. What is the point of this?
It's fair. I'm just saying, I am not ready to rule out the possibility of Morgan Frost being on this team for the rest of the 2020s.
He has to sit down and go,
do I want to be
here? I want to, okay, I'm going to sign this contract, and it's probably not going to be all that much more than my last one because I'm a 40-point a season guy. I got scratched 11 times last year. I've been scratched now this season. I bet you he's scratched again real soon, probably on Thursday.
I mean, the track record implies.
Does he want to stay? Do they want to keep him? I'm leaning no on both, just from an outside perspective. I have no idea. But it doesn't seem like either side should be all that interested in the other.
Look, I get where you're coming from. I'm just saying that I've seen enough with Morgan Frost where people bury Morgan Frost's chances of being part of the future, and then come September, he's still here. So I am not ready to say that this is the end of Morgan Frost's time with the Flyers. I think here's my thing with Morgan Frost about his view of the situation. I think he loves being a Philadelphia Flyer. He likes the organization. He loves his teammates. Could he take or leave John Tortorella? Probably.
And that tells me there's more Morgan Frost to come in this show.
Beautiful.
I'm going to talk about some good stuff first, but Charlie, he's telling me right now, maybe I need to choose chill.
Maybe a little
bit. If you want to choose chill, you got to choose Coors Light. This freaking team, man. They drive us absolutely nuts. We've been doing this a long time, and I still get fired up about talking about stupid stuff. Like, is Morgan Frost going to be here? That's why sometimes I need to choose to chill, and there's no better way to chill than with an ice cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about who the 2C is going to be, what this goaltending situation is going to shake out, how are they going to get back down to 23 players, whatever it is, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies. Because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, sometimes you just got to chill. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door or find a store near you by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. And while we're here, I got to tell you about one of our newest partners. It's C-Jam Construction, a family-owned home remodeler specializing in decks, bathrooms, and flooring. You know how stressful remodeling can be. If you've never done it yourself, I bet you know someone who has been driven almost out of their mind because they just can't find a contractor they can trust. That is why you need C-Jam Construction. Their goal is to help their clients alleviate the challenges and frustrations that comes with home remodeling. So be sure to mention PHLY to receive 15% off when you call 856-329-2933 about your next home project. See their full selection of luxury vinyl plank flooring and learn more about the products and warranties on their website, cjamconstruction.com/flooring. All right, before we get into some another standout rookie right now.
This is the guy I really want to talk about.
I know.
I think he is by far the most exciting part. I even put him over Michkov right now.
Yeah.
Just because we expected Michkov was going to be an exciting offensive player who was going to put up points in his rookie year. Now, how much? Who knew? But you knew he was going to do stuff.
Yes.
I did not know if Emil Andrae was going to be in the NHL this year.
No, and when Andrae doesn't like he makes the team because they're going on a trip and they don't have all their defensemen, but doesn't play. Well, how much confidence do they have?
Yeah, where does he actually fit in this whole
And if
thing?
they don't see it, like they keep seeing things in guys that I don't. They don't see this.
Well,
I don't know. And
they're seeing it now.
he's been good. But I do want to update the rookie scoring race real quick.
Okay.
Logan Stankoven, my guy, my pick for the Calder Trophy, leads the way. 13 points in 14 games. Michkov, 12 points. Does have the rookie lead in goals, with 5. The thing that's really standing out to me right now is the shot disparity, Charlie. Stankoven has 40 shots on goal. Matvei Michkov is shooting 20%. He's got 25 shots.
Yeah, he needs to shoot more.
They need to somehow figure out a way to create more shots for him because the puck is going in when he shoots it.
That's part of what is going on here.
Yeah.
Like, look, I guess in theory he could on the power play just tee off more shots. If he's going to create shots, it's going to be a 5-on-5. And that's been one of the problems is that he hasn't created enough shots at 5-on-5. Now, that breakaway was awesome. Glad to see him get a goal at 5-on-5. What I want to see more of, though, and what I think they want to see more of as well, which is one of the reasons why they went the route they did with the scratching, is they want to see more of him taking shots and creating chances on the cycle.
Absolutely. And I think that is another reason why I kind of like Ryan Poehling right now with him. Ryan Poehling's a good forechecker. He's going to win the race. He's going to get that puck deep, and he's going to get to it first, and then he's going to get his ass to the net. These are, while maybe not dynamic skills, something this team is short on is guys who do those things. He's pretty good at them, and I want to see him create a little bit more. And, again, the rush opportunities. John Tortorella told us last year, like the reason he went to this, we're going to have this rush-based attack. We're going to do things to create a little bit more offensive opportunity. Oh, well, the Mad Russian's good. It's where we got the Mad Russian idea from because he forgot his name. It was very funny. But that was the whole thought process. And the rush offense hasn't really existed, and we haven't seen Mish with enough rush opportunities. Maybe having that sort of speed and a guy like Poehling out there will help it out a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know if I quite buy that, but I'm willing to give it a shot because, again, I want to keep Michkov at this point away from top matchups at 5-on-5.
I'm down with that, too. And just in case, if we're looking at rookie shot leaders, it's Stankoven with 40, has 3 goals on 40 shots. Cutter Gauthier, 0 goals on 35 shots. Very interesting. And then Michkov,
he has 35 shots?
35. He's got, like, by far the most shots.
Well, he's shooting.
An unbelievable number of shot attempts. He's Owen Tippett, basically. And Mish, 5 goals on 25 shots. So he's right there.
He needs to shoot more.
It's just like, and it's not even a criticism. It's just like, this is going well. Let's do more of it.
But again, like, it's not, I don't think he's passing up shooting opportunities. I just need to see him have more opportunities to shoot as a byproduct of having the puck more in the offensive zone. Like, he's done an amazing job of creating quality chances with the opportunities that he's had in the offensive zone. I just don't think he spent enough time in the offensive zone at 5-on-5. If they spend more time in the offensive zone at 5-on-5 when Michkov is on the ice, he's going to naturally create more shots because he's just going to be in there more often.
And that is what gets us to why I picked Stankoven.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, he's on a much better team.
Yeah,
like,
helps.
His line mates are going to do a lot of work for him.
I still think his numbers are going to go down.
I agree.
Just because I don't think... I mean, maybe he is truly one of their 2 or 3 best players, and he's going to be getting all the minutes and all the first line opportunities and all the power play 1 opportunities. But they just have so many good players. Like, I have to think at some point he's going to drop down their lineup.
Someone else will. Yeah. I mean, that's.
But we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Emil Andrae.
He also doesn't have a coach who scratches people. So there's that.
You know.
That's one thing Matvei's going to have to deal with.
I really, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I saw some encouraging signs out of Matvei last night.
What I'm saying is that if we're talking about a battle between Stankoven and Michkov in terms of raw points, Stankoven has an advantage that if he's healthy, he's going to play all 82 games, whereas Michkov, at the very least, is going to miss 2 and very well may miss more because his coach does this.
I'm just saying, I think I saw some things, and we'll see if he keeps them up. Maybe it's just like I'm hyper-focused on this stuff because I just missed 2 games. But if he keeps doing the stuff I saw him do last night, maybe he remains in the lineup.
I would think
Plenty of time to talk about that.
Maybe don't punch a guy at the end of regulation, though.
I don't know. You shouldn't, but You know what? I will say, I do kind of like it. I like that it was Celebrini.
Yeah, I mean, if you truly don't care about the outcome of Flyers games this year, the outcome of individual games, that was great because it was fun.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, the 2 hot shot prospects, and he popped them in the face. Like, that's objectively enjoyable as a Flyers fan, unless you care whether they're actually going to win the game or not, because it did make it tougher for them to win the game.
Absolutely, individual game result. Sure, you don't want to do that. Yeah. But for his career, I did see someone make this point. Like, you know who did that stuff? Dan Briere.
Yeah.
Dan Briere was an undersized guy. He protected himself.
They beat up on him. And, and Danny used his stick as a sword.
Evgeny Malkin. Real dirty. You know?
Yeah.
And it created room for him.
Yeah.
It might not be
I don't know if did it or did he just like to be a dirty player?
Well,
because he's enormous. So when he was in his prime, he was lumbered around there like he was friggin' Frankenstein. I don't think he needed to create any more space for himself. I think he was just a dick on the ice.
Half a dozen of one, etc. Emil Andrae. More than anything, he is super freaking fun to watch right now. Like, that is my big takeaway. Yeah. Is they have a guy who does stuff. He's confident, decisive, skilled. Seems like a good guy to have at the top of the power play. He's thrown some hits. He's averaging as many blocks per 60 as Cam York. In 8 games, he's put 11 shots on goal. Jamie Drysdale has 12 through 15 games.
I feel like, but before we get into Andre, because I do want to bring this up, like, we don't have to, like, in the process of being excited about Andre, you don't have to crap on Jamie Drysdale. I feel like too many fans I see on social and even in our Discord, like, their reaction to Andre exceeding expectations is then to spend 10 minutes complaining about Jamie Drysdale. Like, can we just enjoy Emil Andrae?
I am simply creating some context.
I'm just saying.
Jamie Drysdale.
That was just a little bit of a rant on my part.
Jamie Drysdale has played nearly twice as many games and has 1 more shot on goal. I am just creating some context the same way as I did as many blocks per 60 as Cam York. Cam York blocked more shots than anyone on the team last year, except Nick Seeler, who is a puck magnet.
Yeah.
Like,
it's what he does.
Just saying, he's doing some things at a rate of other guys that you maybe expect more out of.
Yeah, they have a track record of us knowing they're actually true talent good at that thing.
Like, there's a real chance Andre's just kind of feeling it right now. And his play dips at some point. You would expect that from a 22-year-old with his first handful of NHL games. But it's hard to look at him and come up with stuff you just like, oh, that's not sustainable. Like, he's just doing good stuff.
I think what we're seeing at least is, like, I don't know if this is his. I mean, if this is his normal, the Flyers have a stud. But even if this is his ceiling, like, that's pretty exciting because his ceiling's pretty darn good.
His ceiling is real good.
Looking at his advanced metrics, he's played in 8 games this year. He's got a 57.56 expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. Like, that isn't just good, that's great. That is straight up impact level. And yeah, some of that was when he was playing down the lineup in a sheltered third pair. Last couple games, though, he ain't been getting sheltered. He's been facing off against top players. Now, not every shift. They've bounced things around. He's not getting every shift with Travis Sanheim.
Yeah, Sanheim had like 5 more minutes last night than him.
But he's getting enough. He's not, like, they are not saying we can only put this, 5'9" rookie out there against third lines. Nah, he's getting some tough shifts. He's more than holding his own. He's helping the Flyers carry play.
He is. And that's another thing I really liked. I think it was the Carolina game for him. A little rough.
It
wasn't great.
Yeah, that one where he, like, toe picked while he was trying to cover the rush at the beginning of the third period. That's the play that leads to a Jack Roslovich goal. Bad game. But
and since
he's been great since. And that's something. So if you haven't read my my article, I published it early this morning on allphly.com for diehards only, because it is an in-depth feature on one Emil Andrae. And one thing that John Tortorella has told us on multiple occasions, it's very clearly the thing he likes the most about Emil Andrae, is he loves how quickly Andre shakes off mistakes. He loves it because he's like, look, I know in the modern NHL, these guys are going to make mistakes. They take risks. They make mistakes. What I want to see is that after he makes a mistake, number one, he acknowledges that he made it because that was the Ivan Provorov problem. It was like, okay,
everyone else sucks. I'm great.
Yeah, that wasn't my mistake. I didn't turn the puck over. It was because the guy wasn't standing in the right place and I would have passed to him otherwise. Like, no, you have to acknowledge when you're making the mistake. And Andrae does that. And then he immediately forgets about it. That Carolina game was bad. That was a real bad game. That was reminiscent for him of the games he had when he made the team last year.
Yeah.
And you're like, uh-oh, is the floor falling out from under him? Then against Tampa, he was good. And then against Florida, he was great. And that just shows that he's not letting one bad game get in his head. He immediately forgets it. He's like a goalie. He's like a goalie who just like forgets the weak goal he gave up and then stops the next 20.
I'll even point to last night's game. He picks up the assist. He got it to Mish, who got it to TK on the team's second power play. First power play, they're setting up almost something exactly the same, whether it was going to be a one-touch pass or a one-timer to Michkov, and he just totally fanned on it. Didn't bother him in the least. They went right back to it, and it was like, it's there.
Yeah.
And it was there again, and they got it, and it resulted in a goal. He's just confident, and so much of what John Tortorella wants is that quick decision-making.
Yeah.
You can't be decisive unless you're confident. Like, I'm making the right read. I'm putting the puck in the right place.
Yeah.
You have to think that in order to do it. He's both right now, and it's super fun. He had that end-to-end chance last night. He's just doing good stuff.
Yeah, he had that one where he like basically set up Travis Konechny for a tap-in goal. And
he got the one to Konechny down low.
Yeah.
Konechny versus the empty net last night was a much better fight than the Eric Johnson fight. I don't know. The empty net kind of kicked his ass, but Emil Andrae is just so freaking impressive right now. And I saw this tweet from Alex Appleyard, one of our contributors here at PHLY. And it's only 8 games. Again, it's not like huge sample here, but when you talk about goals for, Corsi for, these are results.
Yeah.
The results are he has been their best defenseman.
Well,
and then the
I don't
individual
know if I would go
chances.
that far, but
Travis Sanheim.
I think Sanheim's been better.
Travis Sanheim has been excellent, and I even have to give him the credit. Hard to argue with what they're getting out of Travis Sanheim right now. You made the case that right now, and I think especially since the York injury, he's been better than he was to start last year.
I think so.
Overall.
Yeah.
And I'm having trouble disagreeing.
Yeah.
But Emil Andrae getting some awesome results, and this is, I think one of the reasons it's so fun, like, is this is found money.
Yeah.
Like, we expect Emil Andrae to be part of this thing at some point, and hopefully he's good, but we had no idea what he was. He is very much right now like, is he a boat?
Is he a boat?
And I am just extremely excited about what they're getting out of Andrae.
I mean, a couple things it does. Number one is if he's for real, and look, we're 8 games in. Even John Tortorella said on the road trip, I think it was in Tampa, or no, it was in Fort Lauderdale after practice. He even said, look, it's a small sample. We'll see how he does over the long term, but so far I've liked what I've seen. We're not that far into this. He could tail off.
Sure.
But signs are good that he looks like an above-average NHL defenseman. Like right now, that's my perception, that whether he dips in 2 weeks or in a month or whatever, that like he looks to me like he can be an above-average NHL defenseman. Not a star. I'm not looking at him and being like, oh, man, yeah, he's going to be a number 1. Like, no, I'm not there with him. But he looks to me like he has the tools, both skill-wise and mentally, which are just as important, especially for a defenseman, to be a quality top 4 defenseman. If he's a quality top 4 defenseman, we agree that Cam York is a quality top 4 defenseman. And I don't see any age-related decline out of Travis Sanheim. If anything, he seems to be getting better with age. Suddenly, you have 3 top 4 defensemen that are presumably part of your long-ish term future. I mean, Travis Sanheim, you're kind of stuck with him. So, like, I don't know how you're going to trade him. So he's pretty much part of your future. So you might as well just hope he stays this good because he's got a no trade clause and he doesn't want to leave. No. So, but if all 3 of those guys are top 4 defensemen, suddenly your defense is kind of coming together. You still need that clear-cut number 1. You do. And that's a long-term problem. But if you get that guy and then you have York, Sanheim, and Andrae, and then, okay, suddenly the pieces are kind of falling into place in a way where you can look at it and you can be like, oh, this is this defense might have the start of something. The second thing, and this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, if Andrae is developing quicker than we thought, I think this gives them more time.
Yes.
To try to unearth what they think is there in Jamie Drysdale. It cuts down on the urgency because suddenly you don't have to force feed Jamie Drysdale top power play minutes. You don't have to play him in the top 4. You can use him in a sheltered third pair role and work with him for a year and a half, and see if you can get out of him what they think is in there. Now, maybe it's never going to happen. Maybe he just doesn't think the game at a high enough level. He doesn't have the instincts, and he's just never going to be anything special. But they think there's something there, and honestly, I've watched enough of Brad Shaw to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, if he could fix Rasmus Ristolainen and turn him into a solid NHL defenseman, given how bad he was by the numbers for the bulk of his NHL career, I'm going to guess that given enough time, Brad Shaw can turn Drysdale into something. The problem was that given their depth on defense, they kind of had little choice but to throw Drysdale to the Wolves because it's like, well, somebody's got to take the minutes. If Andrae continues to be maybe not this good, but at least quality top 4 NHL defenseman good for the next couple years, and then we see what he ultimately turns into, that gives them some extra time to play with to take it easy on Drysdale once he's obviously back from this injury, which my understanding is it's relatively minor. He was in the locker room after the game. I don't think it's a major thing. And I have a hunch that, given the roster gymnastics that are necessary, may have been a situation where it's like, you're a little banged up. Take a week off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Point being is that I think this gives them a little bit more time to figure out what they have in Drysdale and not rush him into a role that he's not yet ready for.
And that's huge for both. Like, they need Jamie Drysdale to be something.
Yeah, they do.
They really,
it would be I don't think it would kill them.
Yeah.
But man, it would hurt.
Yes.
Given what they gave up to get him. And what could have been behind door number 2.
Exactly. Even if you're looking at Cutter Gauthier right now, it's like, he's been benched a few times. He still hasn't scored. He's hanging out on the perimeter too much. He had that big turnover. Maybe he's going to turn out to be a goal scorer, but not a 50-goal, that guy.
Not a core piece of a contender.
But there is still always could it have been Marco Rossi?
Yeah.
Could it have been
pretty good?
Like, could it have been another something other than Drysdale? And that will always exist.
Absolutely.
And you can't really afford to make those mistakes when you're rebuilding.
Asset management is really important, and that would mean that you had a top 5 pick and you got a third pair power play 2 guy. It's not going to cut it. Like, you can't have those kinds of mistakes and become a legitimate contender.
Legitimately what we thought Emil Andrae was, who they drafted in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Like, nice little maybe third pair, put him on the power play, do some things for you. Like, you need more out of Drysdale than that, even if Andrae, and this, like you said, buying them that time.
It does.
Is huge. Whether it's to get him healthy, whether him to get mentally up to speed, it just really helps his development.
Yeah.
Less pressure.
Yeah.
Less pressure overall. Speaking of who's on IR, everything going on, Charlie, this roster situation and how it's going to be handled over the next couple of weeks.
It's a very good question.
It might be, like, obviously, there's always the lunatic head coach who's constantly entertaining. He's just interesting. He's just interesting. Watching Michkov is like the number one reason to watch games. New things emerge. Like, oh my God, Emil Andrae, this is great. I can't wait to watch him on Thursday. But the most interesting, like, what are they going to do situation is the roster right now and the 23-man when guys start to get healthy.
Yeah, because right now they have Cam York and Jamie Drysdale on IR. That's how they were able to bring Ryan Poehling back without sending Anthony Richard back to the minors. However, both York and Drysdale, like, they're not out super long term. No. York could be back this week. Drysdale, when you put a guy on IR, he's got to be out for 7 days. I believe Kevin Kerr said he thinks it's 2 weeks at most. So he's not going to be out for very long. At some point, they're going to need to get both of those guys back onto the roster. I would assume Richard is probably one guy who's going to go down. I don't think they're, like, wedded to him by any means. He probably goes down. Then the question becomes, who's the second guy? For a while, we thought it was going to be Andrae.
Just send Andrae back,
I don't know how they can justify sending him down.
There's no justification for it right now.
You can't.
So they're
unless
carrying,
he falls off.
right now carrying 14 forwards with Anthony Richard still up, paling off IR. That's all right. Richard, he's probably the first guy on the chopping block.
Right.
6 D-men with York and Drysdale both on IR. Andre's up on the roster. We thought that was maybe the move, but you get to the 3 goalies.
Right.
With Kolosov still up.
Yeah, that's a question.
Fedotov looking as if, all right, maybe we haven't. Maybe there is something there. And obviously Sam Ersson. Sidebar. They kept him pretty clean for the most part, I thought, through regulation last night. He made some big saves, but that overtime for Sam Ersson last night, hot damn.
Yeah.
He was incredible on that penalty kill.
He looks like a legitimately solid NHL goalie.
All right. Kolosov, Fedotov. That has to be what it is, right? Like,
well,
send Kolosov back?
I don't know what other choice you have. Like, unless you want to go nuclear, which, like, again, there's a crazy person running the team, not Danny. Danny is a very rational person. John Tortorella is who I'm referring to. Like, unless you want to go nuclear and send a message to Tyson Foerster and send him down, like, would I do it? No.
Wow.
Would the Flyers think that a message needs to be sent? Like, I don't know. It's not completely... There are things that a normal team, I would say, there's no way they would ever do that. But the Flyers, I'm like, well, I can't rule it out entirely because, like, John Tortorella is the head coach.
You know, I hadn't thought about the ELC guys.
He's the only other guy. It's Michkov who, like, they ain't sent it down. And then Foerster.
Right,
They're the only other guys that are waiver exempt.
Brink signed a contract this offseason. Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're keeping Andre, unless you are going to go nuclear and try to send a big old message to Tyson Foerster, it's got to be one of the goalies. It has to be.
Do we have any clarification on, like, what that October deadline was or what exactly Kolosov's demands were or preferences?
Well, I think the demands were kind of nebulous. It was kind of like, hey, at the end of October, we're going to reassess where everything is. And then they never had to reassess because he got called up because Fedotov, like, it seemed like Fedotov was going to just kind of get put in mothballs for a while. Well, then they have to throw Fedotov into a game, and suddenly he looks like, hey, maybe this guy can actually play, which puts them in an interesting spot because now, like, obviously Ersson's back, and Ersson's the guy, and he deserves to be the guy. He's been their most consistent goalie this year by far. But it was a lot easier to justify to Fedotov, you got to go down for a conditioning stint, or we got to send you through waivers because, like, dude, you got an .820 save percentage. You've been terrible. Go down to the minors for a while and figure it out, and then we'll talk. Well, now he had a game where he looked pretty good. That doesn't mean the Flyers can't do it. Doesn't mean the Flyers still can't go to him and say, like, look, you're not going to get a lot of playing time. Let's send you down for a conditioning stint. Or they could waive him because no one's claiming him on that cabinet. Not a chance in hell. It just makes it tougher because obviously Fedotov is a guy. He's on the older side. He's got a lot of pride. There are probably some promises made to him before he came over, possibly that, like, hey, you know, you're going to get this year at least, probably both years, and we'll see how it shakes out. It's a little bit harder when he finally had a good game and then you just never play him again. However, and we've talked about this from dating back to the summer, Alexei Kolosov is more important to the theoretical future of the organization than Ivan Fedotov is, simply because of his age. Like, if Fedotov is good, which so far, aside from one game, he hasn't been, but even in a world where he becomes good, what's he going to be on this team for, like, 4, maybe 5 years at most?
He turns 28 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, like, that's best case scenario. If Kolosov is good, he could be on this team for a decade. So if it comes down to ticking off Ivan Fedotov by asking him to take a conditioning stint versus ticking off Alexei Kolosov and him going back to the KHL and maybe never coming back, like, there's an incentive to maybe pick Kolosov in this situation, especially because Kolosov has already shown that at the very least, like, he can hang.
Yeah.
I don't know how good he is at the NHL level yet, but he doesn't look awful.
He looks like a goalie who will one day be an NHL goalie.
I would agree with that.
And is right now just kind of getting by. That said, he has to play. And if you're gonna give Fedotov a look, like, kind of has to go back. He hasn't played in a little while now.
Yeah. I almost wonder if what they're kind of figuring is, like, somebody's going to keep getting hurt. Because that could be how this gets resolved. Like, if before both York and Drysdale are able to come back, someone else gets injured and then they place that guy on IR and that allows them to kick the can down the road a little bit more and have 3 goalies for a little bit longer, maybe they'll just do that. Maybe that will be how they'll keep this going, and they'll only make a move on the goalies until their hand is truly forced or until Andrae crashes back to earth and they can justify sending him back. Like, they might just be looking at this because a lot of people ask me, like, what do you think they're going to do? My answer is, honestly, I don't think they know what they're going to do.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah,
because something always happens.
I don't think they know what they're going to do, and I think they're looking at it as the question might be answered itself by just the circumstances of hockey.
How many times have we been in situations similar to this when we're like, okay, well, you move these pieces, and it's like, oh, yeah, man, 2 guys got hurt. We have another 2 weeks to figure this out.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. All right, before we finish up with today's show, I got to tell you about our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. The fine folks at TrueMark Financial Credit Union want you to know how easy it is to switch from your big bank to a credit union like theirs. They know it sounds like a huge pain, man. You have your direct deposit. You have all your auto pay. You have all those things linked to your bank account. I got to sign up for something new. I got to do all this over. They make it super easy for you. Check out how at TrueMark.com/PHLY. Why should you do it? You know the reasons, man. Banks, they're for-profit institutions owned by shareholders, while credit unions like TrueMark, they're not-for-profit financial co-ops owned by their members. So if you live or work in Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, or Philadelphia counties, you're eligible to join. And member benefits includes those great rates, lower fees, and personalized service where you can have advisors provide that personalized financial planning and expertise so you can learn about goal setting for long-term financial security. So check out TrueMark today. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit TrueMark.com/PHLY. And you need to make some smart financial decisions so you can make some dumb ones as well. That's why you got to sign up with Bet365.
Wow. That was an incredible transition.
Listen, gambling, you should do it responsibly. But no financial advisor would sit down and be like, "Oh yes, have another gambling app on your phone." That's probably a good idea. It's everything in moderation, But it's never ordinary at Bet365, and you should sign up to use them as your preferred bad decision because they are going to hate this ad. I've really dug myself into a corner here. But listen, if you watch the pre-games every night, I've been making some really bad decisions, but I've been making them with Bet365. They've one of the pioneers of live in-game betting. They stream over 780,000 events each year. I've told you about the early payouts. Last night would have been a perfect example. If you took the Flyers on the money line last night, they open up a 3-goal lead. You can go to bed. You don't have to worry about, oh, man, now I'm going to lose because they blew a 3-goal lead to the Sharks. It's coming down to a skills competition. Doesn't matter with Bet365, where they have the early payout offers. So sign up and download the Bet365 app today. Use code PHLY365 when you do sign up so you can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. They can't all be winners.
I personally thought it was a winner.
We talked a bit about Morgan Frost, but scratched last night for the first time this season.
Yeah.
He was scratched 10 of the first 20 games last year, 11 times overall. He has not been good. 1 goal, 5 assists through 15 games, and it is following a pretty familiar pattern. 2023-24, Frost scored 3 goals, 2 assists in his first 16 games.
Yep.
And it took him till December 7th to play his 16th game.
Yep.
And then over the next 46, he put up 35 points. Then final 9 games when the whole team fell apart, he was part of that.
Right.
41 points in 71 games, 0.58 points a game. Yeah, that looks like okay, he's good. The season before that, 6 points in the first 27, then scored 40 points in the final 54. So you finish it up, 46 points in 81 games. All right, over half a point a game. Good for him. I realize we talk all the time about guys being streaky, but you can't do this and expect to be counted on as an everyday player.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The thing that's especially frustrating for me with Frost this year is that last year, not only did he have the good second half and establish himself, I thought he turned a corner, but it wasn't just because he scored. It was because his underlying numbers of 5-on-5 got real good all year. Even when he wasn't really scoring much in the beginning, he was driving play. The defense got better. And Tortorella praised him for that on multiple occasions. He said, look, he's done all the things I want him to do defensively. He's really improved in that area. I need him to score. Then he finally started scoring, and Tortorella gave him the minutes. This year, Morgan Frost has been getting obliterated at 5-on-5. It's not even that he's not scoring. It's that the Flyers aren't controlling play with him on the ice. With him on the ice, 15 games in, because he obviously didn't play last night, 37.34 expected goals for percentage. And we're talking about a guy who last year was one of their better play driving forwards. I don't know what happened to him. And you can get away with that to a degree if you're an offense guy who's scoring. But he's not scoring.
No.
And he's not providing any two-way value. And I thought last year, maybe I'm like, you know what? That version of Morgan Frost can be on my team any day. A guy who scores 40 to 50 points, drives play. He can be a middle six center for me any day. The Morgan Frost we've seen so far this year cannot be a middle six center for me any day. And yeah, maybe the scoring comes around, and that's great because it always seems to with Frost. But if the two-way play doesn't come around too, then you wonder if last year was just a fluke. If that was just like a statistical blip where, for 1 year, all the bounces went his way and he looked like a play driver, but in reality, he's a liability.
The same, you mentioned that, I need him to score, quote, from John Tortorella last year. And he just said the same thing about Tony Dick. Yeah, man, he's got to put the puck in. That's why he's here, to produce points.
Yeah.
Is being like a 45-point, just under a 0.6 point a game guy enough?
It is.
How much does he need to score?
So it is enough if he's providing some two-way value, which he was last year and he hasn't been this year. However, I don't think it's enough.
Is it enough for John Tortorella?
Well, probably not. Is it enough for Danny Briere is the better question,
That's fair.
because so far it has been. He has not moved on from Morgan Frost. He's continued to be in his corner. It probably is enough if the two-way play comes back. It's probably enough for him to be a 40 to 50-point guy, especially because there's never been a world where we seriously thought he was going to be a 1C. No. We're always hoping that at some point the Flyers will either draft or trade for a 1C that will push Morgan Frost down into a middle six role. Now potentially it could be a middle six role with Jet Luchenko. Maybe Jet Luchenko continues to develop and becomes that 1C. I'm not holding my breath, but I guess it's possible. He showed a lot in camp and whatever. Point being is that, 40 to 50-point play driving center is perfectly fine for me to be a 2A or 2B center. But if every year you're doing it by being terrible the first 2.5 months of the year, no, that's not enough. I don't want a player that inconsistent being in my middle six, because a guy who's scoring 40 to 50 points a year is already kind of inherently sort of replaceable. You can get those guys in free. Maybe can't get a 1C easily in free agency. You can get a Derek Brassard type in free agency who can deliver that. And if Frost is always going to come with the first 2 months, 3 months of the year being a liability to the point where the coach is scratching him, then no, I don't think so. And it's frustrating because now, the first month and a half of this season, it's over. Now we have 3 years of evidence that Morgan Frost is a slow starter. So unless he absolutely blows the doors off the rest of the year, that's going to be a black mark on his record. And I feel bad for him because I like Morgan Frost as a player and a person. But the fact of the matter is that it's kind of on you. You're the guy who struggled at the start, maybe even the first third of 3 consecutive seasons. In the end, you kind of have to look in a mirror.
And now Arizona has moved. So those 4-point games are going to dry up a little bit.
And that's a little bit of a low blow.
Unfair.
It's a little bit of a low
that was
blow.
Unfair. I know.
He scored against good teams.
He did.
At least last year.
What do you, however, make of this John Tortorella quote? I got this from Jordan Hall's Twitter.
Yeah, I was there, so I can give you context on it.
I'm not coaching him like I did the past 2 years. I don't think he deserves that. He hasn't played well enough. There's an ellipsis in there, so that's not one continuous sentence.
So I was actually the one who asked both of these questions.
Okay.
So I will give the context, because basically what I said to Tortorella in this presser was, I was like, John, last couple years when he struggled, you've scratched him sooner than this. This year, it seemed like you were giving him a longer leash. And he stopped me, and he's like, yeah, I'm not coaching him like I did the last 2 years. I don't think he deserves that. The implication being that, he earned a longer leash from me. That's why I didn't race to scratch him this year the way I did the previous 2. And then I was like, so if that's the case, if you didn't think he deserved that, why scratch him now? And then his response was, he just hasn't played well enough.
Okay.
So that was very much from Tortorella's perspective, look, I did give him a longer leash. I really, really tried. And finally, I just reached the end of it.
So this is a cause and effect statement.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
The admission that he was kind of kicking his ass the previous 2 years.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
It is interesting, yeah.
John Tortorella is interesting, just on the whole.
He's a fascinating man.
We talk about him.
He is absolutely
he is
a fascinating
very
man.
fascinating.
Yeah.
What do you make of that admission that, I was kicking his ass and then he lived up to it? It's almost a compliment.
It is. It's a compliment. It's not even a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, no.
I think it's actually a compliment.
He doesn't deserve that. He earned me not kicking his ass anymore.
Yeah.
And now it's just, have you seen him? I have to sit him now.
And I think he's right. There's no part of me that is being critical of John Tortorella for scratching Morgan Frost in yesterday's game. Morgan Frost deserved to be scratched for a game because, quite frankly, he is not playing well. This is not a Michkov scratch where you're like, well, he's clearly one of the best 12 forwards on the team, but they're trying to do something with long-term development, and whether you agree with the scratch depends on whether you trust John Tortorella. In this case, Morgan Frost is not playing like one of the 12 best forwards on this team, period. Maybe he's better than Nick Delorier, but Delorier goes in for other reasons. That's just the reality of the situation. Everybody else, I think you can make a case that Morgan Frost has performed worse than basically every other forward on this team.
Has he been worse than Tyson Foerster?
That's a fair question. He's one who you can make a case.
2 goals, 1 assist on the season for Tyson Foerster. Guy we had really high hopes for.
I
coming
picked him
into
as
this
my
season.
the most improved. Yeah. I thought he was going to have a big year.
To look at the way the coach, because the deployment tells you the story. Foerster played over 19 minutes in 2 of the first 3 games. We're a calendar month into the season later now. He just played a season low 12:32. The only forward with less was Tony Dick, and at even strength, Foerster played 10:37. Richard played 10.
Yeah.
He is getting the same minutes as an AHL call-up. What has happened?
To me, the biggest frustration point I have with Tyson Foerster at the moment, because I'm going to compare him to where he was last year, This time last year, he wasn't scoring either. He was struggling offensively. He stayed in the lineup. He didn't get sent down because every other part of his game was good. He was dominant along the boards. The Flyers were controlling play, getting a ton of scoring chances, controlling the shot battle when he was on the ice. He was doing all of the little things, and it was frustrating that he wasn't scoring. Fans were getting frustrated with him. He was kind of becoming a running joke in certain sections of Flyers Twitter. But you looked at the underlying numbers and you're like, yeah, that's why he's still in the lineup. He's doing all those things. The Flyers are a better team. Even if he's not scoring, they are a better team when he's on the ice because he's got such a heavy stick, because he's breaking up plays, because he's winning battles along the boards. This year, he's not scoring. He's also not doing those things. He's been a liability at 5-on-5. They're getting outshot and outchanced and outscored with him on the ice. That is the bigger concern because, look, he's a young player. He's still trying to figure out all of the offensive side of his game. Maybe the second half of last year was a little bit of a mirage, and maybe he'll get there again at some point, but he hasn't quite figured it out. Yeah. I'm willing to be patient with Tyson Foerster's offense. He's still young. I'm frustrated with his two-way play because I've seen him be so much better. And to me, that should be the foundation of your game that doesn't go away even when you're not scoring. And the reason why I believe that is because we saw it not go away the last time he wasn't scoring.
Like, that's the stuff of, like, man, that's what, like, the Sean Couturier comparison in my head is, like, yeah, man, if the offense ever comes, great. But if it doesn't, we still have a useful guy.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about Foerster. Come.
Yeah. And I see that with Foerster, and then suddenly, but this is the thing that shouldn't go away because it has nothing to do with bounces.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with any of that. Yeah. It's just how you're playing, and it hasn't been good enough. Right now, I want to tell you that we appreciate all of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. And the rest of the show is going to be those super chats.
Hey-o.
So let's wrap up. I thought I saw more than that, but just 2. From JH.
Oh, boy.
Billy Goat starting a farm with all the goose eggs. That's good stuff. It's good stuff. It is. I know that we obsess about these things, and like we still talk. Like I honestly think that the front office operates like, man, we really don't want the next, Justin Williams, Patrick Shaw. We don't want those things. And we obsess over these former guys. People are still like, oh, how can we get Claude Giroux? We can't. The end. It is fun, though, that Cutter Gauthier has not scored. It's fun. I know you're a journalist, Charlie. It's fun for me and everyone watching.
I love the fact that the fans can laugh about this.
Look at that.
I do get a kick out of that. I think it's funny.
Professional. All right. And from Gary B., my hope for Frost is able to turn things around.
My hope is that too.
My hope is that they get a nice return.
And then in 2 weeks, when he scores a hat trick, you're going to be like, well, maybe they should keep Morgan Frost.
I will say I know the offense is going to come around at some point.
Okay.
I'm sick of this.
All right.
I want to talk about literally anyone else.
I'm just saying, this is where I wish I should ask Brenna if she can find a clip from like last year's shows in November when Bill was like, I'm out on Morgan Frost. I'm done.
I'm sure they exist. His play, like John Tortorella said, his play earned him a longer leash.
I thought you were going to say up and down like toilet seat.
His play last season, for the most part, after the whole scratching thing.
Yeah. After he went to Torts' office and yelled at him.
Yeah, when he took off his shirt and like tried to bite his ear like Mike Tyson or whatever the hell happened.
Yeah.
It was what? The January 4th?
There was no camera in the room. We don't know.
We don't know. I'm making it all up. January 4th, January 6th, whatever it was, when he got that 11th scratch. Right. And then he was in the lineup for the rest of the year, minus like the last 30 minutes of the final game.
Yeah.
His play earned him that longer leash. Fully agree with Torts on that. And it's like, build on it, kid. And here we are again.
Yeah.
We're having the exact same conversation for a third year in a row.
Bill, I get why you're so frustrated.
I'm done.
I get it.
I'm done with this. If he goes and figures it out somewhere else, hat tip. It ain't happening here. All right. This has been the PHLY Flyers Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Make sure you're following us right here on YouTube. We'll be off tomorrow, but we have a watch-along on Thursday, pre-game, during the game, post-game. Follow us the entire way. Make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube. Hit that reminder bell so you never miss when we go live. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. That's basically where I do all my tweeting now that Charlie and I are both on Blue Sky. We're really trying to make that work with my 200 followers over there.
I'm doing both.
Charlie has like 1,500 followers already. I didn't know there were 1,500 people on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, I'm the one that is tasked with running the Twitter. I guess, like, how many more jobs can we give Charlie? And follow the podcast. Just search PHLY Flyers. That's it for us. My name's Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until Thursday, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.